Philadelphia news, team of my heart. Are you ready for the trade that could change everything for the Sixers? In today's Sixers news, we're breaking down the missing piece, a young, defensive powerhouse who could be the key to taking this team to the next level. You've felt the frustration watching Philly struggle on defense. This player is exactly what the Sixers need: versatility, rebounding, and energy. Imagine how this could shift the season. Don't miss it, subscribe and hit the bell for more Sixers news updates. You've been following the Sixers for a while, right? You know the feeling. The hunger for that one key piece, the missing link that can make a real difference. And now, there's talk of a potential trade, something that could change everything. But here's the thing, we're not talking about some overhyped, past his prime player. This is about someone with untapped potential, someone young and hungry, someone who brings energy and grit, exactly what the Sixers need right now. Picture it, a 23-year-old, still developing, but already showing glimpses of what he could become. Sure, his offensive game needs work. You might be skeptical because you've seen players come and go. But don't forget, this guy is a defensive beast, a relentless force on the boards. That's the kind of player who can flip the script in a playoff series, who can give you those gritty stops when it matters most. And we both know defense wins games in the postseason. The Sixers, they've got some assets, some pieces to work with. And you're thinking, why him? What's so special about this player, let's just say, this guy would fill a gap that's been lingering for too long. You've seen the team struggle with consistency on the defensive end, right? Adding someone like him could bring balance, could stabilize things when Embiid or Maxey have an off night. There's already talk about Houston's loaded roster, too many young guys, not enough spots. The Rockets can't keep everyone forever. And that's where it gets interesting for Philly. Because you know Daryl Morey, he's always thinking, always looking for that next move. And if Houston's front office decides they need to focus on veterans, consolidate their youth, this guy's name is going to come up. When it does, you'll want the Sixers to be right there in the mix. Imagine what it would feel like to see this trade go down. You know the energy that sweeps over the city when the Sixers make a big move. It's that same rush you felt when you heard about the Harden deal, only this time, it's not about past glory. It's about building something sustainable, something real, something for the future. What makes this trade talk even more compelling is the context. The Western Conference is a battlefield, with the Rockets trying to find their place. They're young, and they've improved, but you can feel it, they're going to hit a wall. At some point, they'll realize they need to make a shift, to start cashing in some of those young assets for win-now pieces. That's where the Sixers step in. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And the best part? This player is just scratching the surface. He's got the tools, the hustle, the drive. What he doesn't have yet is the right system to thrive. You know Philly's defense can get stingy when the roster clicks. And adding someone with his rebounding and defensive chops could be the final touch to make that happen. There's a reason you keep seeing his name come up in Sixers news. It's because people around the league know what he could bring to a team like this. A young guy, on a team-friendly deal, who can contribute without needing the ball in his hands. That's exactly what the Sixers need to complement their stars. You don't want to miss this. It's one of those moves that could change the entire trajectory of the season. But for now, it's all speculation. Still, you can't help but wonder what's next, can you? Think about the Sixers' struggles on defense last season. You watched it happen, there were stretches where the team looked unstoppable, and then, all of a sudden, they'd collapse. Too many times, they couldn't hold a lead. A lack of energy on the defensive end, getting beat on the boards, missing that spark when things got tight. You felt it. You were there for those late-game breakdowns that turned winnable games into painful losses. And it's not about effort, it's about having the right pieces. This is where a move for a young, versatile defender starts to make sense. You know how crucial rebounding and defense are, especially when you're up against the top teams in the East. You've seen the big matchups, the games against Boston, Milwaukee, and you know that if the Sixers had just a little more defensive presence, they could have pulled off those wins. What the team needs is someone who isn't afraid to step into the physicality, to do the dirty work. And the player in question, he's exactly that type of guy. He's not someone who demands the spotlight. He's not the type to fill up the stat sheet with points. But when it comes to hustle, heart, and those tough, intangible plays, he's got it. You can already picture it, can't you? him fighting for loose balls, boxing out, making those key defensive plays that swing the momentum in close games. That's what the Sixers have been missing. You know how Joel Embiid can anchor the paint, how Maxey can attack the rim, but what they need is someone to hold it all together on the defensive perimeter. The season is long, and you've seen injuries pile up, rotations change, and roles shift. Depth becomes everything. This is the kind of player who could be a difference maker off the bench or even as a spot starter. He's got the versatility to guard multiple positions. And that's key. In today's game, where switching on defense is essential, having a guy who can guard both bigger wings and quicker guards is a luxury. It's a piece that can shift the balance in critical moments. You've seen how the Sixers get caught on switches, how they've struggled to keep up with teams that can spread the floor. There's also the age factor. This guy's young. He's got energy to spare. You're not talking about bringing in a veteran with miles on his legs who might have 1 or 2 good seasons left. You're talking about a player who's just starting to enter his prime, who can grow with this team. You've watched as the Sixers tried to balance the roster with experienced players, but sometimes it feels like they've leaned too far into the win-now mentality, missing out on young talent that could develop into key contributors down the line. Morey knows this. He's been around long enough to understand that you can't just stack your roster with veterans and hope to make it through a grueling season. You need those young guys with something to prove, those who can bring fresh legs and an unrelenting motor to the game. And this is exactly the type of player who fits that mold. The kind of guy who can be an instant spark on both ends of the floor, who can change the tempo of a game with his energy alone. You can feel it, can't you? The excitement of a potential trade like this. It's not just about bringing in talent for the sake of it. It's about filling a need that's been glaringly obvious for too long. It's about getting a player who fits the identity of this team. Someone who's hungry, someone who's got the physicality and mindset to compete every night. That's what you've been craving. You know the Sixers have the star power, but they need the right supporting cast to make it all work. You're probably starting to piece it together now, aren't you? Think about it, this player, with his defensive instincts, rebounding, and ability to guard multiple positions. He's exactly what you've been wanting for the Sixers. The missing link that can add a whole new layer to the team's defense. Imagine watching a game where the Sixers no longer struggle with defensive rotations or getting beaten on the boards. You've seen it happen, those frustrating moments when the Sixers are so close, but the lack of a versatile wing defender just lets the game slip away. It makes you wonder, how different would things be if we had that guy, that extra spark on defense, someone to lock in on the opponent's best scorer? You're picturing it, aren't you? That player giving Embiid and Maxey the support they need, stepping into high-pressure moments without flinching. What would it feel like to see him on the court, taking over those key defensive assignments, making life miserable for the opposing team's star players? It's the kind of thing that gives you hope that the Sixers can finally push past the playoff hurdles that have haunted them in recent years. You know the talent is there, the potential is there, but it's about having the right pieces to bring it all together. And what about his youth? You've probably noticed how teams that go far in the playoffs aren't just loaded with veterans, they've got a mix of experience and youthful energy. Guys who are ready to give everything they've got for 48 minutes. The Sixers need someone like that, someone who isn't afraid to play tough, physical basketball. Someone who can get under the skin of the opponent, break their rhythm, and turn the tide in Philly's favor. So, what do you think? Have you guessed who I'm talking about yet? Think about everything we've gone through, the defensive prowess, the rebounding ability, the versatility, the fact that he's just 23. A player like this doesn't come around often, and if the Sixers can make a move, it could be a game changer. Alright, let's stop keeping you in suspense. It's Tari Eason. Did you see that coming? He's the one who checks all the boxes. Young, tough, versatile. Everything you've been looking for in a player who can help take this team to the next level. Now, here's where it gets interesting. What would a trade for Eason look like? What do you think the Sixers would have to give up to get him? Would you be willing to part with some key assets to bring him to Philly, knowing what he could add to the roster? I'm sure you've got some thoughts on that, and I want to hear them. And if you're as excited as I am about the possibility of seeing Tari Eason in a Sixers jersey, hit that subscribe button and tap the notification bell. Stay updated with all the latest Sixers news, because you won't want to miss a single second of this journey.